If anyone is looking for a way to understand more about their strategy, like just actually track the strategy. I don't think people do that. They just look at it live and then they're like, oh, it's all stored here. It's not. It's all gonna be gone the next week.
Back when I first started, I was like, it's gonna take a year.
Yeah, me too.
And then after experiencing it, I didn't really have a time frame. I knew that I was gonna do it though.
You have to learn the skill. Like, it's not just about potentially making money. You read Mark Douglas's book, you know you can do everything wrong and you can still make money. Like, that's not a indicator of success. I'm here today with Justin. You've been trading for 3 years, right? And
Yeah.
you're also a scalper. How did you get
Yeah.
into trading? I guess we can just jump right in.
Yeah. So I would say that the whole GameStop thing, Robinhood coming out and just the hype around trading. Also, I got a little bit of money from the government that I was, said, hey, I'm gonna, try trading that
Yeah.
way. So that, and I got a little bit of capital too from like my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that, has basically started my journey and everything. And um, I have the ups and the downs. I've blown up, that and then made it back. So, just on the journey now at this point, steady.
How many times have you like blown an account, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I wouldn't really say like blow up. So like
Okay.
I track my stuff on Profitly,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I blew up, I threw more capital in, right? I wasn't gonna give up then. So it got really low and I threw some more in. I was like, just still keeping at it and everything. And then over like the course of 3 years, that's how long it's taken to go from losing what I had lost to gaining that back. And now I would consider myself to be like consistently profitable. I'm still, hiccups and stuff like that, and there's still, little battles and everything that I gotta get through. But that's kind of like where I'm at on the journey.
Oh, dang. Well, good job. Because it took me, I was also in small caps because that's what you trade. And it took me 2 years to
Yeah.
realize that I needed a plan. So for you for you to get to the 3 year mark and start seeing some consistency, that's like, I think that's really good. I know to a lot of people that's a long time, but that's pretty awesome in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So Profitly. So you must know who Tim Sykes is then.
That's pretty much how I got my,
Okay,
my big introduction, my big learning stuff, right?
that's funny. Me too. Yeah.
So yeah, I was a big follower.
So you were on YouTube one day, and you saw one of his videos. Is that what happened?
I think my dad told me about him, and then I just started watching him,
What are your
and
opinions?
then that led me to stocks. Sorry, go ahead.
What's your opinion on Tim Sykes?
Um, I think that he does have a lot that you can learn from, but more like other than just like learning from him or whatever, and kind of getting an idea of what he's looking at and stuff like that. If you're going to trade small caps, even besides that, I wouldn't really say much further than that. I think that there's this another one that is kind of like Tim Sykes. I think they work together. It's called Stocks to Trade with Tim Bowen.
Oh yeah,
You ever heard of Tim Bowen?
yeah. I follow Stocks to Trade on Instagram also.
Yeah. So I think that's also pretty that's a pretty good source of information too in the small cap land. And he's kind of on the ball if you're in pre-market prep and stuff like that, like that's kind of useful.
Because to me, when I was learning, it was always in the back of my mind. Because Tim Sykes, he does a lot of like, he's just really good at marketing and like social media, I would say. So the way he does things is
Mm-hmm.
just kind of a little sketchy. So that was always in the back of my mind. I'm like,
Yeah.
is this even like legit? He's in small caps. It's obvious. I mean that he has such a big
Right.
following that if he sends alerts, which he does sometimes, I'm not sure if he still does that. If he sends an alert, the price is gonna go
Mhm.
up right after he buys it. So like, uh, I do think he's
Yeah, I
legit.
don't buy any of those.
Okay. Did you ever question if he was legit or not?
Um, I mean, as in like, does he actually trade, or
As in,
what do you mean?
like, is it a scam, or does he actually know how to trade, or is he just like, pumping the stocks by sending alerts, and then that's how he uh makes himself look
Yeah, I mean, I
profitable?
think he does know how to trade. I would say that he does know how to trade and everything, and I mean, I wouldn't say that he's never pumped things before and made money off of it through his, little army of people that are buying after him.
Yeah.
That's probably pretty factual. There's another guy that I don't even know who it is, but I've heard of him. Like, he's sort of in the background. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chat Guy.
Chat guy?
Yeah, it's not a real. It's like a I don't even know. It's like a myth kind of,
Oh,
but he pumps stocks.
no.
And I've like back in the day, I've bought in some of the ones that were like pumping and everything, and I'd get in, and then it would just tank as everyone started selling. And I bet you it was Chat Dude taking profit.
Who?
I don't know. I don't know that to be factual, but it just seems like that could be it.
Yeah. um so who else did you learn from? Tim Sykes, Tim Bowen, two Tims.
Yep, yep. Two Tims. The stocks to trade also has a lot of other people that I like. Like, I really liked Bryce Toohey. Matt Monaco was another one. Those are all stocks to trade guys that trade similarly to how do I trade, with small caps and whatnot, and breakout trading and things like that. Um, I learned a lot from my dad. He trades too.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah. So, and just lots and lots of research, books, a lot of books, reading. So I got Trading in the Zone, trading in the Trading Psychology 2.0, the Playbook. Read all those.
Okay.
So
So I'm curious what your first year was like in trading. Was it pretty horrible, or did you like go in because you had your dad who trades and all these resources? Did you actually know like you needed a plan?
oh, it was pretty horrible. It was pretty horrible. So, like, I started on Robinhood, and I'll tell you, like, I want to tell my little story about like how I sort of like got addicted, to trading, because everyone has that like
Yeah.
one moment where they make some money and they're like, oh, this is it.
Yep.
So I don't even remember the stock or anything. And there was nothing really important about it, but it did go like parabolic. And I just remember I was getting like an eye exam or something like that. And before I got in my car, I decided I was going to pull open Robinhood and see what my stock was doing. And it was going parabolic. And I remember how much I made. It was like $60, but I had probably like $20 into it. So I thought, like, this is the way, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
That's funny.
Robinhood was my first experience, and that was pretty bad. Like, I didn't know about limit orders and slippage and things like that. I was just market buying. No real, didn't have any technical analysis. Wasn't really doing a whole lot of research. Just seeing what would stick, for like the first year. Um, I would say year two was like when I started learning like technical analysis and trying to like learn a little bit about level two and whatnot. So year two was a big kind of like good stepping stone. I wasn't profitable in year two, but it was a big stepping stone for sure.
What do you think is the biggest difference that got you from losing to seeing some sort of consistency?
I think a lot of it, for me anyway, is psychology. And when you begin to think in like probabilities, I guess maybe it makes it easier to cut your loss.
Hmm.
because now I know that I'm gonna be wrong sometime, most of the time, basically, you know.
Yeah.
And so just cutting those losses quickly is the best thing to do, and getting your head into that, like thinking in probabilities, you know what I mean? And once you start to dig deeper with that, like, okay, so I'm breakout trading biotechs. Then you track like, okay, there was 10 biotechs I traded today, and there was like, let's just for an example, there was 10 trades that I would have taken because of this setup. Out of those 10, how many worked? Then you kind of just I do keep track of that, and that's kind of like in the back of my head as my probability. You know what I mean? Is this going to work or not? And if it breaks my zone where I'm going to cut losses, then I'll cut losses. And there's definitely some times where like I get hurt more than I wanted to.
Hmm.
I think 3 or 4 months ago I got hit in an offering, which small
Oh,
cap land that sucks. It was like 30% drop at one bar,
yeah.
and that was rough. I was trying to risk $50, and I think I lost like 300.
For those people
So
that
that was rough.
for those people that don't trade small caps, they probably don't know what an offering is, but essentially it just makes the stock, like the company decides to sell a bunch of the stock at a very low price, so the market just immediately
Yeah.
tanks to that price usually. And that was always like my
Right.
my nightmare when I was trading uh small caps and penny stocks for like my first 4 years
Right.
essentially. I was just always like, man, I hope, please, please. There's always that fear that like it's gonna
Well,
randomly go ahead.
I found a way to mitigate that a little bit.
Oh, how?
If you use dilutiontracker.com, it will tell the last time that they did an offering and how often they kind of do an offering. Like you can kind of see on a monthly basis how often they do it.
Hmm. I remember.
So I always check that before I even take a trade.
I remember I would always go to. I don't know what the website is anymore. I used to have it bookmarked. Uh, oh, just sec.gov. Edgar. There's like a you can put in the ticker, and there you can see that too. You can see all their
Mhm.
filings. And I remember going through that because like Tim Sykes talks about it a lot. And I remember going through that
Mhm.
like I'm like I have no idea what 90% of this is, but I know like what the offering is. So I'll look for how often does an offering, basically what you said. And if I know it's
Yeah.
not like often, um, or they just did one, I'm like, okay, they're probably not going to do another one. But yeah, it's funny. It's just
Right.
always it's a risk you're taking trading small caps, whereas now I'm trading futures. Uh, Anything can happen. Like a war could break out at any second, or something crazy can happen. But I don't.
Right.
I no longer have like a really fear of it just spiking up or down 30%, which I guess is a pro
Yeah.
a pro of trading futures. So
Yeah.
you're you only scalp small caps, or do you do anything else?
I mean, I'll like day trade and I'll do a little bit of swing trading, but primarily scalping. Like one of my problems is not letting runners run. That's one of the things I'm dealing with now,
Yeah.
and not adding to winners. So that's what I'm going to try to work on now is letting runners run and add to my winners, because I have like paper hands. You know what I mean? I want the profits like right away. You know.
Yeah. That's I kind of miss Tim Sykes. Like as I hear you talk and like say some of the things he says often, I'm like, dang, because
Mhm.
I would watch his videos every single night. Um,
Right.
did you?
I think stocks and trades just as good.
Yeah, I never got into them that much. So did you? Uh,
Mhm.
when you first were getting started or looking into trading, did you always think that it was like possible to make money from it? Or did you ever doubt it?
Hmm. I mean, I'm sure there was some sort of doubt, but like, I mean, I always thought that it can be done, you know? And I thought that, you know, if you put in the time, the effort, and you instill these things that a trader, you know, has to have, like a discipline and, you know, things like that, then it can be done. I've always kind of thought that.
Um, did you ever give yourself a time frame to be profitable?
Um, I mean, I'm sure back when I first started, I was like, it's gonna take a year.
Yeah, me too.
And then after experiencing it, right, after experiencing it and everything, I didn't really have a time frame.
Cause on
I knew that I was gonna do it though.
yeah, yeah, same here. Um, I guess
Right.
that brings up a good question. Did you ever you never thought about quitting or giving up?
No.
So, what would you do when you were going through like a rough period in trading? Like in the first year, maybe things aren't working, like it's hard.
Like, I mean, I probably would take a little bit of breaks and things like that. And but I mean, I remember I was always kind of back on it. Even like when I lost, one of my biggest losses was $1,500.
Oh,
That's a lot. That was a lot of money to me.
yeah.
And I mean, you know, it stumped me or whatever, but I still was researching. You know, I would maybe not that same night, but like that same week, I was definitely back on researching and things like that, and willing to keep trading.
Tim Sykes is pretty good about kind of I don't know if motivating is the right word, but he is, yeah, motivating. Like he's good at motivating you when you know you had a bad day and I would go on and watch his video that night. He'd like just pump me up again. I'm like, dang, like he made money or he lost a little bit of money. I'm like, this is possible. Like I know I can do it. Um, so I think that's kind of good to have like someone, maybe not a mentor one on one, but someone you can at least like consistently learn from. Uh, whether it's
Yeah, he had a big loss not too long ago.
hmm,
Excuse me. But it was his biggest loss, I think, in a decade, he said.
oh wow,
And it was a $30,000 loss. Yeah.
that's honestly not that bad for how like he makes. I don't know what his average is. Isn't his average usually like 10 to 20,000 winner?
His average, I think, is like I maybe 5 to 10, I think.
Oh, okay, okay. I mean that's still not that bad for how much.
But he told us, right. He told the story, though, and he even said that, like, it dropped and he did what he broke a rule of his and he bought more. Kind
Oh,
of like, you know, when you're averaging down. Right. So like that story to me, it's like I even still sometimes will average down. I'll get out though instead of just keep averaging or whatever. But that story though kind of, you know, helped me out, I guess. You know what I mean? If he's still taking a loss like that and still making these mistakes, then it's not as, you know, it's not easy. And well, all of his experience, if it is true, then he still goes through those kind of like hardships and whatnot.
he's been trading for over 20 years. I'm pretty sure, right? 25, something like that.
Yep.
And it's funny. I always see people thinking like they can easily just remove emotions from trading and it'll be something that's just, oh, I don't need to worry about that, like I can figure that out later. But it's like Tim Sykes, Mark Douglas, another guy I follow, Tom Hugard, um, a bunch of other people in like the UK, because I was watching a video from Tom Hugard, and it was like a seminar thing. So there's a bunch of traders there. They all talk about how they still struggle. Uh, like they all still make mistakes. They all still let emotions sometimes like get the best of them. And I feel like
Right.
people think like once you get to a certain point or you have a certain amount of experience, it just goes away. But that's not true. Like it still happens. I think it's important to know that because like that's one of the hardest things. Luckily, I don't really struggle with it as
For
much.
sure.
Uh, you said
Yeah.
you said psychology was your biggest struggle still, right?
Yeah. For sure.
What do you?
And I can break that down a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So like I would say like one of the biggest things is like feeling like you have to trade, like you have to make, money. Um, so there'll be times where maybe I shouldn't be trading. And last week was a good example. I didn't trade for I think 2 or 3 days out of the week just because of that market, sell off and everything.
Hmm.
So I was, I maybe took like 2 trades, you know what I mean, throughout that like whole week, maybe 3 or 4 trades, and so that's hard to deal with, when you feel like you need to make money and this is like your this is your goal is to keep growing your account and everything, and sometimes it's really not conducive to be throwing your capital into the market and just the little bit of experience that I have seeing, like I'll look at multiple stocks and then I'll see when the market opens, I could now kind of get a feeling of are they going to get smacked down, and a lot of it's probably getting smacked down by the whole market, so that's when I won't trade. Maybe I'll only trade afternoon. Like one of my afternoon patterns is an afternoon VWAP hold,
Hmm.
and if those are still holding up, I might think about trading that. But yeah,
What is your main strategy? You don't have to go too in depth, but what's the one that you're using right now that's giving you that consistency?
breakout trading is still pretty consistent with that. I've been breakout trading probably the longest, so I think that's
Yeah.
probably what I'm best at. Um, those pre-market, like the thing that Tim Sykes talks about, the whole pre-market, and then it dips down a little bit, comes back up, or breaks the pre-market highs, things like that. Still trade a lot of those. Um, let's see, VWAP hold for the afternoon, still probably one of my top three trading strategies.
Okay. It's all very simple, which is what I think brings so many traders to Tim Sykes. Because literally, like when you say breakout, it's literally just I did that a lot too. That was my main strategy. Um, was breakout trades. There's no, I don't need any indicator. I don't need
Mm-hmm.
no fancy like multiple step strategy. It's just like I the the stock makes some run, like a big run, and then I just put an alert, and then I can put alerts on like multiple stocks, and then only one out of like 10 or 20 are gonna break out. But then once it does,
Right.
I had a data spreadsheet of I don't remember what it was, 300 or something trades. So I knew like what are the chances it's gonna continue. If it dips, like is it gonna go back up? Blah blah blah. I can't really remember most of it because I haven't looked at it in a while, but um, it was very
Mm-hmm.
simple and it worked for a little bit. But then I found it wasn't reliable. Like it was working very good for like 3 months, and that was the first time I had like consistent profits. I was making like a pretty decent amount of money. I like tripled my account And then just constantly, day after day, just wasn't working anymore. Have you had a similar experience
Yeah.
like that?
What where like trades don't work out for a long period of time.
Yeah, where it's like working consistently, and then all of a sudden it just stops. Because that's what it happened for me.
Even yeah, I mean even kind of recently I've noticed a lot of the what I like to trade and have been failing a lot out of the open.
Hmm.
So I mean I've known that and I can tell pretty quickly. So let's say that that's happening. I will then switch to afternoon VWAPs only. Um, and I mean, it's not like I won't take a trade that I see is like, it's above the 200, the 50, and the 20-day moving average and things like that. I'd still might take that trade just because I know that those, indicators are, saying that's going to go up. And if I see it's doing that as well as expanding in volume, then that's another, check mark in the boxes for me to decide whether to take that trade or not. But I mean, I still think that those pre-market trade setups for me anyway, I think they're always going to kind of be there. Um, and they may not be as like fruitful, like you might not be able to pull 20, 30% out of them all the time. But I think that, that's something that's probably going to stick around.
What is the craziest thing you've seen? Because I know a lot of crazy things happen trading small caps.
I mean, offerings are like the craziest things I've seen.
Yeah. And you've just been caught in,
Gnarly offerings.
you were just caught in one of them?
Yeah. I've been called multiple of them.
Oh, that sucks. Have you ever thought about leaving small?
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Have you thought about leaving small caps, or you think you're gonna stay there?
No, I'm gonna definitely learn some other strategies. I want to get into options as well. That's probably gonna be one of my next things. Um, and maybe futures as well.
Okay. Um,
But I think it would only be because I think it's important to learn multiple strategies. Like what I would use futures for is just another ammunition. And options, just other ammunition.
you don't think it's gonna be harder to focus when you have multiple strategies in different markets?
So like if I was gonna do options, I probably wouldn't focus nearly as much on small caps for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Um, I, I guess I don't really know how that would affect me because I haven't done
Yeah.
that yet. But I've been studying options a little bit.
You said
Have you studied options?
um I did try options for a couple months, and I didn't like it. I like kind of hated it. I know hate is a strong word. I
Right.
just really
Yeah.
prefer not to use options because the decay, it just doesn't make sense to me, especially as a day trader. I can see why it appeals to a lot of people because options, it can go from literally under a dollar. It's kind of like penny stocks or small caps. It can go from under a dollar and spike up to $5, $10. But at the same time, if you're doing it more realistically and with less risk, if the price doesn't get to where you think it's going to go quickly, you're always dealing with decay. So, like, the price of the option is slowly going down in value. Um, where I'm like,
Right.
what is the point of that? Like, whereas with futures, I can do the same thing and it can take its time to get there and I don't have to worry about decay. So I'm like, all right, why? I'm like, why am I wasting my time with options? Like, it just, I,
Right. So I think for me, I've practiced it on a simulated trading options anyway, and I've had some paper success in spreads like vertical spreads,
uh,
and I think that's what I would want to do is like vertical spreads.
I don't know anything about that actually. I know there's a bunch of crazy strategies you can do, but they're all pretty complex to
Yeah,
me.
like so a vertical spread, like I mean, it can be kind of like if it's doing this kind of thing, like up and down, which a lot of the times the market will boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
you can make money on both ends.
Okay. So as long as that's when you're,
But I've only paper traded that. So I've never put that into live. I don't know what it would be like live. I've only experienced the simulation of that.
do you use simulated trading a lot to practice?
Not with my small caps anymore, but with other things, yeah, like the futures, and the options, definitely using simulation.
Okay. So what do you think is your next like steps for your journey or your trading? Because you said you see some consistency. Do you think you need to
Mm-hmm.
implement something else into your trading to get to the next level? Is it overcoming psychology? What is like the next step for you?
Yeah. Um, I I think overcoming psychology for sure is a big one. Still don't have as much discipline as I'd like to have. Like I want to be able to, always cut losses when I want to cut losses and things like that. Know when I shouldn't trade and not try to force a trade and not have that feeling like I need to make money. Those kind of things still are, a bit of a problem for me. So those I want to work through before I want to, increase my size or anything like that. But probably what I usually do is I'll go 2 months and then I'll keep track of like my discipline, like my psychology. Did I have discipline today, and does that show through my P&L or my profits and losses for the day? And then like on a 2 month basis, then I'll increase my size to you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's that's pretty smart. Most people, like myself included, I would just say I want to improve these things, but I wouldn't actually, do anything or take any steps to do it like it or track it
Mm-hmm.
like you're tracking it every 2 months. Whereas for me, I would just like,
Yeah.
I have no idea how often I did it, how often I didn't. I would just be like, oh, I need to improve it, but I don't know how and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to, tomorrow, I'm going to
I
magically solve it.
It's gonna fix everything. Yeah. No, I think the big important thing is keeping a journal and then reviewing your journal. Like I've always kept a journal since I started,
Nice.
but I didn't always review it. You know, and it's important to review it and then break down even further into your journaling, like, and then put it in spreadsheets, like how many did you win or lose, what trades were they, all that data is definitely important.
Is there anything specific that you look at in your journal, like when you review it, or are you just kind of looking through everything?
Like how my psychology, like how my emotions are during the day,
Hmm.
for sure. If I'm alert or tired, if I've like exercised or if I've recently exercised or if I've like missed out on going to the gym or anything like that, like I do keep track of all that kind of thing. And yeah, I think that helps, you know what I mean? Like the exercise, keeping the blood flow into your brain, um, even meditation, you know what I mean? To help keep a cool head and everything like that. Those kind of things. I'll keep track of, what I've done. Like I've heard you say, does your outside stuff correlate with your trading? And I
Yeah.
think it does.
Do you have any examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think an easy example would be like if you're gonna go on the market and you're trying to pre-market trade or trade the open and you're tired and you stayed up late till the night before. I think you're just kind of setting yourself up for failure a little bit, And like sometimes I'll go midday and I'll go to the gym,
Hmm.
and I think that maybe it's just me, but in my head or whatever, but I feel like my brain has like that blood flow, and then other traders or like the institutional people, like they're still getting back from lunch. They didn't go to the gym, things like that. So I kind of feel like maybe I have an upper hand, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, no, I mean
mentally,
just in life though, if you think about it, how many people actually exercise or go to the gym? So like if you think about that,
yeah,
you're already at the in the top percentage. Like I don't think trading's a special industry where more people work out. It's probably just like any other industry. Most of them don't. Um,
right.
that's awesome that you are doing that because most people they're not super. I don't know. It's hard for me to say most people like as if I know everyone, but like just from what I've seen, from what I've seen,
Yeah,
most traders aren't super open minded. They just think like they'll figure it out magically, like I was saying before. But there's actually like things you can do. Um, what is like the biggest lesson that you've learned so far?
that cutting losses, like cutting losses, is the most important thing in trading, for me anyway. I would say that's the biggest lesson I've learned is to cut losses where you have the plan at. You know what I mean? I guess a good way to say it is to cut losses smartly. So don't just cut losses because you have to have a plan of where you're going to cut losses. You have to have a reason. Where if it goes here, that means you were wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be willing to accept that you're wrong. And then it's hard to to have that all set up and then choose the size that you're going to go, like how much you're willing to risk, especially when you're up. These ones are breaking out, pre-market or whatever, and you got to pick one of these, and then you got to do your risk to reward and things like that. So you really got to be on the ball, and that's where that exercise comes in, getting a good night's sleep and all that kind of thing. And like you got to be really on the ball.
Another thing I miss about Tim Sykes, he always says like cut your losses quickly, and I believe he had like two or three rules that he would always say, right, or four rules maybe. Um, but I just remember
Yeah,
him always like drilling that into people's heads. Uh, dang, I forgot what I was gonna say. Cutting losses, risk management. I think that's mainly what took me from consistently losing to being break even. Like I said before, when I figured out I needed a plan, I also found out about risk management
yeah,
and I started putting in place like, okay, I can't just randomly buy 300, 500 shares of this stock. Like I need to calculate how much I can risk. And that adds a step and that takes time, like you said. And for people that don't trade small
yeah,
caps, it moves quick and there's multiple per day that move. So like you said, you have to pick the one that you want to trade. You have to calculate this as the stock's like, if I'm a breakout trader, it's like moving it it's moving quick. So
yeah,
every
right.
second is wasted profits or potential. So like spending the time to do that, takes discipline rather than just, oh, buy, you know, and that's like that made a big difference for me. So how do you determine where to exit usually? Where to cut your losses?
Um, where to cut my losses, I'll always on the candles. I'll have a place where if it goes below here, then I'm wrong. I think that's kind of important. And a lot of the times, if it's in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
I'll use like a 5 minute candle rule. I don't know if you've ever heard that.
No.
So like, let's say that like one of the things I trade is called a dip and rip. So like it goes down. The first 5 minutes is down, and then it starts to come back up. I'll put my risk just below that first red candle.
Okay.
That's one way to do it. And then I always have a dollar amount that I'm willing to risk. So I mean that on every trade I have the same dollar amount. So it kind of makes that part easier to be like, okay, this is how many shares I need to buy for that to be that dollar amount for the risk, right? But um, that is one way to cut losses quickly for me anyway. Um, but then, like I said, like there'll be times where that doesn't work and you're gonna get stopped out like all the time, every day. You know what I mean? For a little while, like you say, when you went through that period
Yeah.
where those stopped working, and that's like when that happens. That's when I'll switch to afternoon only VWAP holds, and then on those I will like move my risk. I'll take like a little bit less share size and move my risk to be a little bit wider.
Okay.
Um, but for the pre-market, I don't make it wider. You know what I mean? It's really strict because those pre-market ones can really just get slammed, and I'd rather just be out. You know what I mean? Even if it goes down, comes right back up. I know that sucks to look at, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah, that's the worst. I remember I would trade and goes down, stops me out, and then just rips back up. Like that's I think it might be the worst feeling in trading because you're taking a loss, but you're also missing out. So it's like two of the worst feelings combined.
For sure. I've kind of become, I don't know if you want to say numb to that, but yeah, that doesn't it's not that part of my that doesn't hurt my psychology, that part of it anymore.
Yeah, like honestly,
Because I know that can happen.
when like beginners ask about like tips to overcome that, it's like kind of it sucks to say, but it does just take experience and like going through it a little bit to be like, okay, this has
Yeah.
happened to me, 100 times before. Like it sucks.
Yeah.
It's never gonna not suck, but like I'm not gonna break my rules or chase it or anything.
Yeah, I don't think there is a successful trader out there that has not put in a substantial amount of seat time, you know, years.
How long do you spend on trade?
Because I mean, even I'm sorry, go ahead.
How long do you spend on trading, like per day or per week, if you know?
Yeah, so anywhere between 4 to 6 hours a day, I would say.
Is most of that spent on like actually trading live?
No, so I would say 4 hours trading live, and then 2 hours looking over the market, looking over my trades, looking at my journals and things like that.
Nice, yeah. That I used to do that much also. Now my goal is like I want to spend at least like 3 to 4 hours a day on trading consistently. Uh,
Mhm.
have you been doing that pretty consistently, like since you started?
Um, no, I would say the first year I didn't do anything like that. The second year I knew that I needed to put in more hours outside of trading, learning about trading. And then now that I'm more of an active trader, like day in and day out, I know that I need to keep a good eye on the markets, the news. Also while keeping track of my psychology, like am I tired that day? You know what I mean? Is there anything going on emotionally or whatever that may hinder me? things like that, and just yeah, a lot of research outside of the market, like in the market, but outside of trading. You know what I mean?
That's another thing where I think most people just want to spend time live trading, uh, because like
Mm-hmm.
you do learn a lot, but mostly they want to do that because like that's where you can actually make money. So it's like, why would I spend time, practicing or researching or like back testing? They'll watch a couple videos,
Right.
but like they're not really. Most people don't put in work outside of the trading hours because it's like, oh well, I can't make money when the market's like closed, so what's the point? But like that's the whole. They're missing the whole point of like you have to learn the skill. Like it's not just about potentially making money because you can make. You read Mark Douglas's book, you can do everything wrong and you can still make money. Like that's not a indicator of success.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, if you're just going, if basically if you're only trading, you're it's kind of like a casino, you know. If you're only going in trading, you're not like looking at how your psychology is, or not looking at like your P&L and things like that, and seeing your strategy and looking over the market and seeing, did your strategy work out on how many stocks did your strategy work out on. Um, you're just kind of gambling at that point. It starts to turn into more like a business when you have the risk that you're willing to take on each trade. You have that locked down, and you have the discipline on top of that to actually cut those losses when it gets to your risking point, and then not to add on to that loser because you're going to have a more attractive price, and stuff like that.
What is Why do you trade? I know it's kind of like a big question, maybe a weird question, but
Um, I really just, honestly, I love the market. I love I love watching the market. I love the data that comes out. I like reading the news on it. Obviously, when you make money, you do have that kind of like euphoric feeling,
yeah.
and I like that euphoric feeling, and that's another reason why I like to trade.
So like what is your goal? Do you have goals with trading? Like do you want to make it your main source of income without a certain amount of time, or are you just focusing on like getting a little bit better every day no matter how long it takes?
No, I want to make trading my full source of income for sure.
Did you give yourself a time period for that?
Um, yeah, I would say probably 5 years
5 years total, so like
for
two
myself.
so 2 more years.
Yep, 2 more years.
So uh is that how do you determine success in trading? Is it the money that you make, or is it something else?
Um, I mean, it's hard to not say that it's the money. You know what I mean? The way to determine success.
Yeah.
But I don't think that anyone should just give up if they're not at that 5 year mark making whatever dollar amount that they said that they wanted to make. And I think that maybe even putting that time frame, because I mean I'll say 5 years, but I don't. It's not like in 5 years I'm gonna be like, oh, I'm not making money, I'm gonna give up. I
Right.
don't see that happening. So I don't know, man. I just I think everyone's gonna have a different journey.
Because for me, I'm asking these questions because like I had to go through a like my journey was constantly giving myself goals, um, and time periods to reach those
Mhm.
goals. So I'd be like, okay, I want to make,
Right.
like 10K a month, or I want to make 100K by the end of my first year. And then like first year finishes and I'm like nowhere close to that. I like don't even really know what trading is, honestly, because I'm just doing random things. So it's just like
Right.
you never really know. It's like hard to say, to give yourself a time period even. Like I know it doesn't logically make sense because it's like most things in life you can give yourself a time period. If you're consistent, you'll get those results, like almost guaranteed. Like going to the gym, go to the gym for a year, like 5 days a week, you're guaranteed to, as long as you're not
Yeah.
like as long as you're not like overeating, you're guaranteed to, you're going to see
Right.
results. Most
Right.
I w- business is kind of similar to trading, where like, there's uncertainty and unknowns. But if you spend time every day
Mhm.
on your business, you're most likely going to see some like profits come in or some improvements, more leads or more sales. But like trading is like there's just so much that goes into it, and like so many unknowns, and like the psychology aspect, and just so many like moments of realizing like, oh, I've been doing that wrong the whole time. um so I don't
Mhm.
I was kind of like you, where not saying that, that you're gonna experience the same thing as me, but like I uh was like, okay, I'm gonna give myself like another year, and I'm pretty confident like I'll make it. And if I don't, I'll reevaluate and be like, okay, should I keep doing this? And sure enough, I got to year 5 or whatever it was at the time. I think year 5, maybe year 4, and I was like, okay, I still haven't made it, but it didn't take me long to be like, okay, I'm gonna keep doing this, because like I know I'm confident, um I can do it. I've seen other people do it. I'm confident most people could do it. So like why not? Like why the only thing that um would make me, I'm trying to not say the same phrase I always say, cuz like it gets repeated often, but like the only I'm trying to be creative right now. But the only thing that guarantees like you're going to fail is if you give up, right? And
Right.
so I was just like, okay, if I don't give up, if I continue to put in effort, stay like open minded, try to kind of be objective about what's working, what's not working, then like, you know,
Mhm.
as long as I'm not like losing all of my money and hating it, like I don't think I'm gonna give up.
Right. I think almost every trader that has stuck around for a year or two has that mentality that they're not going to give up. And I think they probably have done other things. Like for me, playing guitar. I mean, I didn't not just know how to play guitar, but I wasn't going to give up, and it took a long time to get good at playing guitar. And I think that the market's kind of the same way. Like some people may be able to get it in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people may take 10 years. It just depends on the person, and probably many more variables than I could even think of could go into reasons why it takes longer for some people than others.
Yeah. I mean that's another comparison to trading. Like, you know, if you play an instrument, you're like, when I was playing guitar, like I was surprised how quick I could. I was doing like finger picking, so I would like look up on YouTube a song I liked and finger picking tutorial, or uh, just tutorials. And after spending like an hour on it in a day, I was like, holy crap! Like I actually like memorize at least like half of the song. I'm like, okay, like that's
And
pretty quick. But like, you can't in trading go and look at a strategy, spend an hour on it and see like good results. Like it's just crazy how like hard it is. And um yeah, I don't know, maybe that's something I can work on, is not constantly saying it's very hard, because I think it can be easy. Um but it's not linear in terms of the amount of work you put into your results. I don't think, at least, which kind of is
yeah,
unfortunate. I remember for me when uh, I decided to like spend more time on it, I would get excited. Like I sometimes wouldn't be able to sleep that well at night because I was like so excited to wake up. Do you ever experience that?
I'm definitely excited, but I don't think I lose any sleep over that anymore or
Oh,
anything like that.
yeah.
But I mean, I'm definitely, literally, I hear people say it all the time, like they're not excited for the weekend because there's nothing to do over the weekend, and I do feel that way. It's like I'm ready for Monday, but I know that I need to get to sleep and eat healthy and things like that to be able to be prepared for Monday.
So, I guess the last question usually I ask people is, if you were to give advice to someone that's new or struggling, and like let's say you knew they were going to listen to you, not just take the advice and go over their head, what would you tell them?
First of all, don't give up because this is probably, I think it is the hardest thing that you will ever do in your life. Um, so yeah, don't give up. And if it's something you want to do, I'm not saying like anyone should just like, oh, I'm not going to give up even if you don't love it. You
Yeah.
definitely have to love it if you want to endure all this stuff. But yeah, man, just don't give up and keep putting those hours in. Keep grinding, keep working on your process. Find the routines that make you perform the best. You know, and work on that.
I like that. Find the routines that work the best for you, because a lot of times, um, you'll try to copy other people that are successful, which is, I think, good, but you don't
Right,
necessarily just want to copy them just to copy them. Like you have to, pick and choose what works for you. Everyone's different, obviously. Um, awesome.
right.
Is there any um, thing you wanted to talk about before we go, or any questions you had?
Um, I think for one thing I don't think we really got into was anchored VWAP. Have you ever heard of anchored VWAP?
No.
Okay. I think anchored VWAP is very important, especially for small cap land.
Okay.
And I think it's something that no one really knows about. Everyone knows what VWAP is.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody, but
Yeah.
a lot of traders know what VWAP is, that you can just pull it up on your indicators and everything, and it pops right up there. But not all brokers or whatever have the anchored VWAP, and the anchored VWAP I think is a way better indicator than the normal VWAP.
Is that the one that you use in your strategy you were mentioning?
Yeah,
The VWAP hold?
yeah, the anchored VWAP. It's also good for like any sort of breakout things. Like you can kind of see if it's going to kind of break out. You know what I mean? Like because the normal VWAP it will start at 9:30.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It'll start at the open. And the anchored VWAP you can have set like a 2 week or 1 week or a 5 day anchored VWAP, so you know that it's above that zone. You know what I mean? Over a 1 week or a 2 week period. And I found that yeah, I'm able to get kind of like a better at a better price, you know what I mean, a better risk to reward than I am on the normal VWAP that resets every morning at 9:30.
Okay, so the difference is you can have it going over multiple days rather than it just restarting for that current day, right?
Yeah, yep. And that's why they call it anchored, I think, because it's anchored at like the 1 week or whatever day and time you want it to be anchored at. You can set.
Okay, so it would work kind of more like a moving average then, right? Because moving average is over
Yep.
a long period. Okay, awesome. Well, I don't use indicators, but I mean, I tried for a little bit, but I just settled on like breakouts in small caps. Um, but cool. Was that the only thing? The anchored
I
VWAP?
think that we went over everything else. I had something about probabilities and stuff, but we kind of went over the whole probabilities. I was just going to talk about like you can like know what your strategy is and see the stocks that you may have taken for the day
Mm-hmm.
that are fit your strategy, and then mark out how many of those work, over a week period of time, a week long period of time, and then I'll put that as one of my check boxes. You know what I mean? Is this working? Kind of like a hot sector, you know what I mean? But like a hot strategy.
That's literally what I would do. I would, like I said, I had a spreadsheet, so I would track the strategy. At the end of every single day, I'd put in how many today worked, how many failed. I put in like screenshots, the percentage it ran, the percentage it would like be drawdown. But I think I maybe got I would like I think Mark Douglas talks about this like cherry picking the data or over curve fitting or whatever.
Right.
I think I did a little bit of that because I would be like, well, yesterday this happened. It dipped here and then this percentage and then went up. And I would assume the same exact thing would happen tomorrow, which sometimes that would happen, but
Right.
usually that's not gonna happen. But I think that's a good
Right.
if anyone is looking for a way to understand more about their strategy, like just actually track the strategy. I don't think people do that. They just look at it live and then they're like, "Oh, it's all stored here." But like it's not. It's all going to be gone the next week.
Yeah. You can, if you do that, you can notice that, hey, dip and rips have not been working. You know what I mean? Or they've been a lot more VWAP holds. Sometimes I'll even look at like biotechs had been one of the ones I'd been running, I think, a couple weeks ago. And, just kind of a hot biotech, pre market biotechs, I think they were. But like 1 out of 3 of those would run, for example. I don't have the data in front of me or whatever, but it's something like that.
Mm-hmm. I honestly miss small caps. Like I just miss looking at the.
I was going to say, man, I bet I can see you get back into it.
I don't know. I just remember like it's like more. It has more of an excitement factor because every morning, it's not that I wake up every morning and now because I only trade futures S&P 500. Whereas with small caps, you wake up, you never know. You're gonna wake up to one of the hottest days of the year, or is it gonna be a super slow day?
Right.
So it's just kind of like exciting, and it kind of gives you something to do. Because I would wake up, go through my scanner, go through all the stocks. Whereas now I wake up and it's like I look at one chart, I'm like, oh, okay. Which there's I think that works better for me because it's simple. I don't need to bounce around. But yeah, I mean, small caps are definitely
I,
fun.
yeah. There definitely feels more exciting for sure than if you were just trading that one
Yeah,
investment vehicle. I guess that's one thing wanted to ask you a little bit. I don't know if we have time, but
yeah.
about leverage. Leverage in futures. I don't really know a whole lot about that. I've heard that it's built into it, but maybe you could give an example of how leverage is built into futures.
Um, yeah. So you did mention that a little bit before, and I actually didn't really think about it too much until you mentioned it, and I was like, you're right. Like it
Mm-hmm.
is. Basically, you just need. So I trade with Trade Station, and they tell you like the margin requirements. So like I trade micros because that's the smallest size you can go. And it'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
you need like basically $1,000 in your account to be able to trade a micro, something like that. But the micro, the actual size of the micro is like 10,000 or 12,000. Like that's the amount of capital you're controlling with one micro contract. Um, but
Oh
essentially,
wow.
yeah. I mean, I don't care about any of that. All I care about is one micro. Each tick is 1.25. Yeah. So each tick is $1.25. So like each point that the S&P 500 moves is $5. So if I have one micro and the S&P 500 goes from 4,000 to 4,001, then I made $1, you know? And that makes it easy for me to know how much I'm risking, how much what my profit would be. So for me, like I have a max loss I'll ever take is $50. So 10 points. So if I'm trading two micros, I know I can only risk 5 points. So it just kind of makes it simple.
Right. I could see that.
Whereas penny,
I'll definitely have to get into it at some point.
yeah, there's no, I don't have to do. I used to have a calculator for small caps. I would have to put in the price of the stock, um, the shares that I wanted to trade to figure out like how much money I could risk and what that would equal if I had lost and if I won. Again, it just all takes time
Yeah, we
when
still
it's
got that bad boy. Still doing it.
it's all it's like so quick. Like you need to do it because like the stock's running. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would look into it. I mean, I was like I said, I only traded small caps for 4 years. I was like, okay, you know, it's kind of crazy for me to only be doing this. Maybe some people would call it smart, but at the same time, like I've only done that. Maybe I don't know if I would like futures more or options. I didn't like options, but futures I think I like. I might still eventually try swing trading because I think that honestly would fit my personality more because I'm not really someone who takes risks or like is super quick or like for me it'd make more sense to have a plan and be super methodical and see okay, price got here and I buy and I'm fine waiting a couple days or weeks. So we'll see where I go from here.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on, Justin. Um,
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
it was nice speaking with you. Hopefully tomorrow's exciting. It's not one of those boring days.